All right, cool. So we are good. So hey, everybody, welcome to the Eric Tries Too Hard podcast. And this week we have, I don't think I've gotten your real name. I just have your Reddit name and your email.
My name is Steve Esposito.
It's nice to meet you, Steve. And tell everybody what you do.
Well, right now, I'm working a real job, which I hopefully will get out of anytime now. But currently, to talk outside the job, I work. I've been doing a lot of writing, comedy writer. I'm actually looking to get some jobs within NBC, hopefully soon, relatively soon. We're hoping on that. And then I've been, doing stand-up comedy for about 6 years now, and that's really it. Just hanging out there, doing my thing.
That's awesome. So as far as the comedy writing aspect, how are you going about trying to get those jobs? What do you? I have no idea about that side of the field.
All right, cool. Well, I'll start out with saying that if there's any other comics out there who are listening to this, the first thing you want to do, besides having your set and being a comedian, is you want to have other skills too. So you want to get to know how to do writing. I'm not just talking about writing jokes. You want to learn how to write like a screenplay or like a line, maybe making like a 5-minute skit or something. You don't want to go too crazy. You don't want to throw a whole bunch of stuff out there. But one of the first things I had to do was I had to write a bunch of late night jokes. So if you're familiar with with Jimmy Fallon, stuff like that.
Like how midway you almost said like a Letterman, but then you're like, I gotta update this. Okay, sorry, keep going.
No, it's crazy because things like people like David Letterman, he's I don't want to say old, but he's older. He doesn't really cater to legendary, experienced, whatever, however you want to call it. But you want to you want to get more skills. And so what you have to do is you got to put together a portfolio. What I had to do is I had to do 2 pages of monologue jokes, which are very they're not. I'm not gonna say they're simple, but it's pretty much like you read a headline, then you make a joke about it. It's like set up punchline. It's not
they're joke jokes.
Yeah, they're joke jokes. They're meant for people who really aren't thinking at 11 o'clock at night. So, so you gotta set those up. And then I had to do 2 skits for SNL style. One has to be I introduce new characters, and another one has to be something really topical. And then and those have to be full screenplays too, which I've never written before. So I was up for days just being like, okay, I gotta get this done, and it's not the easiest thing to do. And then the other part I had to do, I had to answer a whole bunch of essay questions too. They wanted to know everything about my comedy writing and style and stuff. So, I mean, be prepared for that. You got to write a little biography, when you read a book and there's a little biography about the author. I didn't realize that the author writes that himself.
Oh yeah, and it's been painful. I've been doing band biographies for a decade now. It hurts my soul every time I have to type one of those things.
And then the weird part too is you got to write it in the third person. So you're Steve, and you can't be Steve is the best person in the world. you can't write stuff like that. You got to be well, he's doing this and he's doing this, and I try to picture my mom is trying to talk to her friends and be oh.
I can see where you're going. Yeah, that's hilarious. That's actually absolutely perfect for that kind of thing. Oh,
yeah, so it's a lot of it's also a lot of talking up yourself, and I don't want to say it's not being honest, but you want to be honest to a point, because once you get because I had a couple of friends of mine who actually are in they're in the business. And once you can talk yourself up, but you also have to walk it too. It's not just all talking. You got to do that walk, and you got to be good, or else it's you will never ever work in that industry again until people forget about you after a couple of years.
Yeah, that's one thing that I didn't come to understand until years after college, and I've only had the experience of trying to make it in the music business. But it really is that some people can have a couple good years, and that's it, and that's very commonplace, and that always blew me away, because I was like, what, you don't just keep going up?
Oh man, I used to do the whole band thing too.
Yeah.
A long time ago, I played bass,
Nice.
a lot of bass, and it's very funny because stand-up comedy and being a musician, they really go hand in hand. And if it wasn't for my younger years of being a musician, I don't think I'd be able to handle the stage as much as I can now.
Now, how did you feel you made that transition from being in stage on a band to being there by yourself? I always thought that would be kind of a rocky transition.
It is, especially since like when you're on stage as a comic, you don't have anyone to blame when you screw something up. So you can't be like Adam, you're playing the wrong beat or something, man. Like you have no one to be like, oh, okay, not my fault. It's all about putting yourself out there, and it's a lot of it's very stressful because you're the only one up there, and it's you, a wall with a logo and the microphone, and that's it. That's all you have. And my first real set, where I had to do a bringer show, I blanked out.
Ugh.
I totally blanked out.
Yeah. Oh, really?
I got 2 jokes in, and then I did a lot of improv. I filled out the next 4 minutes of improv jokes just right on the spot, and it was the longest 5 minutes of my life.
How'd you end up doing with the improv?
Oh, well, the MC who got on stage, she's like, that was the cutest blank out I've ever seen.
You got called out immediately.
I got called out immediately, but like it was nice, and people were like great. Like people came up to me after the show and they're like, "Oh, dude, that was awesome. You did really good." But the best part about it was the guy who came up next to me after me. He was this big guy. His name was P Money.
Of course it was.
Yeah, P Money.
What wouldn't it be?
And he says one joke, and like all my friends, like I gotta set the scene. All my friends are like right in the front row, so when I'm telling one joke, they're like, they're doing their best. So this guy P Money, he's huge dude, and I'm not to be like racist or anything, but he's black, so he's like he's kind of.
You can have eyes and
yeah, exactly.
It's fine.
Yeah, he's big. He's a big black guy, and he's like he tells one joke. And everyone kind of chuckled, and he goes, "Don't fuck with the Bronx, man." Oh, can I curse?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. I don't know. He goes, "Don't fuck with the Bronx, man. You just don't do it." And everyone's like, "Okay, joke." And he goes, "You don't do it. Just don't fuck with the Bronx." And for 5 minutes, this guy went on just going, "Don't fuck with the Bronx." And everyone feels threatened because they don't know what the hell's going on. So I'm like, that is the best follow-up to my set I've ever had.
Right. You know, on the way, the least cutest blank out that the MC you've ever seen.
I mean,
on the way up there, he had his whole set planned out, and then someone walked in and was like, "I fuck with the Bronx." And he's like, "Oh."
And like, oh man, like we're in New York City, we're in this basement, and like only the people in the back were laughing, which were his friends, and like. Yeah. Man, all my friends were like, "Dude, I don't know what was going on. Like, were we being like punked or something? Like, what's up?" And I'm like, "Dude, I don't even know." Like, I was busy talking to people.
So where are you from?
I'm from Long Island, New York.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I've been here my whole life. I spent not even a full year in Florida, and I came back. I couldn't do it.
Yeah, no, was it for school or was it for what would you do there?
Well, I have a degree in criminal justice, so. Nice. Yeah, you really can't do much with that, which I learned. So I was like, you know what, I have an uncle who's like, come to Florida, check out what you can do here. So I did, and there's nothing. The system down there is totally different than it is in New York. And I ended up coming back, and I decided that I don't want to be a cop because that's really the only thing you can do with a criminal justice degree. And yeah, I was like, I don't want to be a cop because I don't like the idea of just like, especially with all the news now, I'm like, I just don't like the idea of like possibly being shot at.
Seems reasonable, especially if you're thinking about going into that profession. That is one of the cons you have to weigh.
Oh yeah, well you have to weigh about like, okay, I don't want to be shot at, and I don't want to shoot someone. Like I don't want to do either of those things. Like even if I have to, I'm like I really don't want that on me. So it's one of those things where I'm like I can't do that.
So what kind of real world job are you doing right now while you're chasing that dragon?
The kicker is I work in a bank now, so
yeah.
I don't want to be shot at, but I work in a bank. All right.
Yeah. Still less chance of it happening. But,
it is a less of a chance, but it's kind of like it's like another one of those kind of stressful jobs because I mean I've done retail for a really long time, and when you go from retail, when you're just dealing with items and products and stuff, now you're dealing with people's money. Like you're dealing with exactly what people are using to buy these products and this nonsense. So it's absolutely I would say crazy at times.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I had we have like because I'm in the where I'm located is like right on the border of kind of like a really good neighborhood and then a really sketchy neighborhood. So we get like the best of both worlds. So you get some people coming in and they're like, oh yeah, I kind of do this, and they're like, yeah, sure, no problem. Here's your money. And then we have this one homeless woman who just starts yelling at you for no reason. Like she comes in and she uses the bathroom. We have this little jar of candy, so she steals candy. and then like she starts yelling at you and like saying really vicious things, and then
Mhm.
leaves. You're like, well, that's my day. And
Yep. I work in the psych field, and the first 2 years outside of undergrad, I worked at an outpatient mental health facility, which meant the clients were just stable enough to be out of the hospital, but not stable enough to be on their own in any capacity. And the first day of work, so that was, yeah, I totally relate to that. My first day of work, I saw my boss, and I like in the distance at this program, and he waved to me, and I was like, oh, I'm going to impress him. I'm going to go right up and talk to one of these people and see if I can help him out with anything. So I walked up to this woman. Hey, I'm Eric. I'm new here. Can I help you with anything? Can I do anything for you? And she just goes, you stole my vagina! And then ran out of the room. I was like, well, that's my life.
oh man, I used to work for GameStop at a point, and I mean, I was like 18 at the time, and this woman comes into our store, no pants on,
No, yep, of
like
course
no
not.
pants on, just a shirt, like a sweater, and my manager looks at me, he's like, no, you deal with that. I'm like, I don't want to. And this woman comes over, she goes, I'm in a rush. I'm like, I can tell you're not wearing pants. And she did not want to leave at all. Everyone like, no, we gotta call the cops now because this is getting ridiculous. I'm not dealing with this. Yeah.
Oh man, that's awesome. I mean, not for you, but looking back, I always love having those jobs where you have to deal with people who are ostensibly crazy. You end up with the best party stories,
Oh
but you
yeah,
never
you
want that to be
do.
your career. Like
Oh yeah.
that's kind of
That's
yeah.
like that's like what the comedy thing is for me too. At some points, like because I tell a lot of jokes, and a lot of the jokes that you tell when you're a comic, you have to be the butt of the joke. You have to be self-deprecating to a point. So when I tell jokes about, or I tell like a story, like I just told you, um, it's funny, and you're not telling it at the expense of someone else, which
Yeah.
is the best way to do it. But yeah, I mean,
Is that kind of your comedy philosophy?
when you're starting, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I did
Oh, but when you're famous, you're just gonna rip into everybody.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's how it is. Like, look at one of my couple of my favorite comics. You have Louis C.K., who's self-deprecating to the fullest.
Oh yeah.
Mark Maron. I don't know if
Oh
from
yeah, yeah.
yeah. It's funny because those two go really hand in hand. And then like you listen to someone like Aziz Ansari and stuff, and all their jokes, like really listen to their stand, and even like Jim Gaffigan, listen to their stand-up because every joke, they're like the butt of the joke.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I see a lot of comics are like, oh, let me do this joke, throw a little bit of racism, and I'm like, no, don't do that, because you don't have an audience yet. When you have an audience, you can start doing stuff like that. But when you're by yourself, you're not really, no one knows you. You have to make them know you,
Yeah,
and
that's true.
that's
Yeah.
how you do it. You do those self-deprecating jokes here or there. One of my favorite jokes I like to tell on stage, which kills. I tell people, so the other night I got into a car accident. I didn't crash; I just shit my pants while driving. And,
That's the cutest shit joke I've ever heard.
exactly.
I like it.
And I told the joke. I thought of the joke. I'm like, let me go on stage. I just had to tell it. I just got to tell it. And then a lot of people really dig it. And
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of take it out of my rotation here or there. I kind of throw it in when I want to. But a lot of people like when I was first starting, they're like, oh man, that's really good. That's a really good joke. That's a good shit joke. And it's you make yourself the butt of the joke you do it for the first couple of years, and when you start to get known, you start getting you can start kind of making your own pathway. To the
It's
comedy world.
also like you said, it's also about being very true. And like you cited both Mark Maron and Louis C.K., who are kind of on the front line or front runners of this. I wouldn't call it a new wave of comedy, but it's our current wave of comedy where it's less about being a political figure. It's less about being an observationalist. It's more about being almost a philosopher, like a philosopher with dick jokes.
Yeah,
And like,
that's a
and,
good way.
and because and so those two in particular really combine that self-deprecating, self-loathing, just shame and guilt
Oh
combined
yeah.
with a keen philosopher's eye. And when you have that away with words and a good sense of humor, that seems to be like that's what people are gravitating now in comedy. Do you see that change? Do you not see that change? And if so, do you think it's a good, bad thing?
Oh, honestly, I think it's a great thing because one of the other rules like of basic comedy is that everything you say has to be believable. And when you start kind of going out there, people tend to believe you less, and like you just look like a bullshit artist. Like that's what it comes down to. But the change in seeing people be more realistic, it's kind of like a breath of fresh air, in a sense. And the way that Mark Maron and Louis C.K. do it is absolutely phenomenal. It's great, and the best thing too is that they kind of portray that in their regular lives too. So like they're pulling from their real life. They're not just saying shit. They're not just talking out their ass. So
yeah. The only time I'd ever seen, I'd seen both of them. I think I first heard Mark Maron when he was on Tough Crowd. Like that was my first experience with him when he was more like political guy.
Oh yeah.
And then Louis C.K. for when I was like a little kid, or not little kid, but like I remember seeing his first. I guess it was a half-hour special. I didn't get anything he was talking about, but then I rediscovered him, years later, along with everybody else when Chewed Up came out. But with those, it seemed like, I don't know, for you used the phrase breath of fresh air, and I totally feel that. And again, not in the comedy world, outside of just being a fan of it. I definitely have had periods of intense love of stand-up comedy, and then my interest kind of waned. But it was never interest in the medium. It was just whatever happened to be kept getting exposed to. And for the longest time, like for a couple of years, I just started like fading away from it. I guess just newer comedians weren't interesting me, and a lot of comedians I liked were putting out specials that I no longer related to or found interesting. And it wasn't until I started getting into podcasts and finding all these comedians who I hadn't listened to in, 8 to 10 years were doing all this incredible stuff with this kind of new philosophical and self-deprecating way.
I
think it's very healthy right now where everything is.
Yeah, like I feel like for a while it was just like jokes, and it was like
just jokes.
It was just jokes for a long time, and people were like, okay, but then I feel like it came to a point where it's like, okay, well anyone can tell a joke now, and I think that's because of the internet.
Yes.
The internet
keep going on. I have a theory on this too, but yes, tell me what you think.
The internet came up, and now everyone has a voice. Now we're not just looking at Comedy Central and looking at one person telling jokes. Now we're looking at like thousands of people telling jokes, and it's like even like Reddit. You can have a whole thread where everyone's just going like boom, line. Everyone's just hysterical, and things like that really change. And like you look at Reddit, and then look at the content you see on there, and then jump over to like Facebook. And then you'll see Reddit is now on Facebook, and like it's blatant stealing. Like they're blatant go, okay, well I need my likes. So, but like that's where kind of comedy was going for a while, and with everything changing because of the internet, now you have to pull from your real life, because you can't, like in my life, you can't make this shit up. You really can't. There's some stuff you can't make up, and it's good to have your jokes, but when you start pulling from your life, man, other people get to know you better. They feel like they know you better, and that's kind of how you build a better reputation with the people who listen to you, is just by doing that.
That's a very good argument for finding your truth as opposed to just telling jokes. No, I definitely agree with the internet. I agree with everything you said. In fact, so I always went through my life because I can make people laugh, but I never would do it professionally.
Oh, yeah,
but I always was like, oh, I'm a funny guy. And then I go to Reddit and I start trying to post stuff. I'm like, oh, this is good. And then you realize, oh my God, every joke. Yes, it's or that everyone else is just as funny. That there are hundreds of thousands of people who are just as funny as you. Because it would be like, oh, I'm going to make this comment. It's going to be a great joke. Of course, the first 10 people who commented also made that joke. It makes you go deeper, and that kind of leads into my theory. What I want to add to what you said, because I completely agree with that. I'd like to add that I don't know if you heard. You know what hive mind? Yeah. So
concept? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So the first time I ever heard hive mind is I'm a super nerd and I play Magic the Gathering. I haven't played in a while, but I love it. And when the internet came out, when like Magic players flocked to it to share strategy and deck ideas, and the level of competition, the average ability of the average Magic player shot through the roof because all of a sudden everyone has access to everyone else's ideas.
Yeah.
And so people were progressing on the game so much faster because instead of you and your friends trying to figure out how to play better, now you had 100,000 people all sharing all the information on how to play better. I feel like that's happening in comedy by accident. Because everyone's posting like you said, posting so many jokes on Reddit where you're like, anybody can make a funny joke, anybody can say this funny thing. I need to figure out how my experiences and my personal voice combined with the sense of humor that everybody else seems to have to make a unique joke that'll actually surprise people.
Yeah, like you can always make a joke. Like I saw this one guy. Man, I can't remember the joke now, so I'm gonna skip over that.
Yeah.
But I mean, one of the things I wrote about for my SNL skit was something called Law and Order Fashion Squad or Fashion Police. I called it. So it was like Law and Order, except you had these two guys who were just trying to steal clothes from the victims, and like really good stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that's a funny joke. Some people can get into it, some people might not get into it. But it's like one of those things which it's just a regular joke. It has nothing to do with my personality. It has nothing to do with how I think, really. Like if that ever gets aired, like people just go look at it and go, oh, okay, that's funny. When you see a stand-up comic go up and he does something like that, or he talks about it, throws like his own thing, like that's him. That's that person's ideas, and that's how that person is representing themselves. So it's like, that's like one of the big differences between just telling a joke and being yourself. So
that's a very good way to put it. You're either telling a joke or you're being yourself.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of how it is. I mean that's why I do a lot of the self-deprecating stuff. I do a lot of my whole thing is that I'm on stage. I have the microphone, you don't, so you're gonna listen to everything I have to say. So
yeah,
most of it's just about like me and like how I carry myself through life.
Yeah.
So
this is a super hacky comedian interview question, but I don't care. You've been doing it for like 6 years. Do you have any decent heckler stories?
The funny thing is that like I don't really encounter a lot of hecklers. Which is really crazy to think about.
You seem very likable. I have a hard time.
That's it's funny because I did go through comedy courses. I did a lot of comedy training, and the first thing that someone said to me when I was doing this training stuff was like, "You are like the most likable guy I've ever seen," and they're like, "Even if you bombed, no one would care because you're just a likable dude." And I'm like, "Oh, thanks." And
yeah, you don't have the video up, and obviously this will be an audio podcast anyway. But I'm just seeing your picture for your Google Hangouts, and I'm just imagining if you frown a little bit after you say you bomb a joke, and I picture you frown just on stage. If you frown, I'd want to support you. I'd probably give you an applause break.
I can look very sad. I can do very sad very easily. Yeah, my I don't know, that picture's like really old too, man. That's like
I was saying you look young. I was like, wow, he's been in comedy for 6 years.
I still look really young. Like that's a problem. I'm 28 years old, but I look 23. So yeah. like even at work, like no, I was getting my hair cut one day, and I'm like, yeah. And she's like, oh, what are you getting your haircut for? I'm like, oh, I'm getting interviews and some headshots and stuff done. And she's like, oh, it's really good, like, at a younger age to get all this stuff done. And I'm like, yeah, younger age. Yeah. That's right. We're not closer to 30 than your age.
Yep. For a second, I thought you were gonna say like at your job, and I was gonna think I just pictured a very old lady coming up. She's like, you're a little too young for a bank teller, huh?
Oh my God. I get a lot of that at work. Like, oh, you're like, if I don't shave, then yeah, I kind of look my age, of course. The second I shave, like, shaving takes 5 years off your face.
Yeah.
Like, I think. So like, I would have customers that come up to me and they're like, oh, like I tell them like, oh, like right now, I'm getting married next year, and when I say that to a customer, they're like, oh, you're too young to get married. I'm like, I'm almost 30. What the hell are you talking about? And then I think mentally, I'm not there. Mentally, I'm nowhere near 30 at all.
And especially with, and we can philosophize on this all day long, but like the whole, with you needing more advanced degrees in a lot of fields and people living with their parents a lot due to economy, culture, what have you, I feel like 30 is a lot younger than it used to be as far as the mentality.
I like to say that, 30's the new 20.
Yeah, there you go. So you're getting married next year?
I'm getting married next year.
Well, congrats.
Thank you.
Yeah. I got married a couple years ago. We're the same age, by the way.
Oh yeah.
And the hardest part about being married is remembering where you put your ring. So somewhere else.
Oh man, I had a friend. It's funny because I have a bunch of other friends. They're all married already. They got married within the last 2 years. Mm-hmm. So now they're looking at me. They're like, and they're younger than me. They're like about a year younger than me. And they're like, so when you getting married? I'm like, don't talk to me about this yet. Let me do this. Let me get this stuff done. Let me get where I want to be. But one of the greatest things, especially with my fiance, is that she fully supports everything I'm doing.
That's
So
really awesome. I was going to ask that.
yeah,
If
she
I if I told my wife, I was like, listen, baby, I'm gonna have to quit my job and pursue art full time, and then my head would be just cut off, so I wouldn't even be here anymore.
that's a really hard thing to do because I still the thing with my fiance and I love her to death and everything, of course. If I told her that, like, yeah, I'm just gonna quit my job and do comedy, like, she would rip my head off. Like, dude,
Because that is irresponsible.
you can't do that. Even at like 23, I couldn't do that. I couldn't quit
Yeah.
my job and do that, and that's just how we are as a society nowadays. But what I try to do is like I tell her a plan. That's what you have to do in like a really good relationship. You gotta, if you have a plan, hopefully they understand, because we're saving up for this wedding and stuff, but I still got you gotta get headshots done, you gotta do a lot of traveling, you gotta get a lot of stuff done. So it's like, when we come to an agreement about stuff, like, she's totally understandable, and she even helps you try to find ways to make it happen, which is really
Yeah. Oh, that's nice. That's really awesome.
yeah. And like she's I would say she's a creative artist herself. I mean,
Oh, cool.
like, she doesn't do art, but she loves writing. She's really big in the writing. She proofreads as much as my stuff as I love.
Oh, that's awesome. Wow, that's
Yeah.
really awesome.
She's like, oh, let me proofread it, and she's like, oh, you need a recommendation, like. I needed a recommendation letter, and she's like, "Oh, why didn't you let me write it?" And I didn't know that at first.
Yeah.
And so I had another friend of mine write it for me. But she's like, "Yeah, let me proofread your stuff. Let me do this." And I'm like, she's helps out a lot, and she's genuinely like one of the funniest people I know. So like,
That's awesome. I figured that would be very important.
oh, it is. It is.
Yeah.
Like,
my wife will make jokes, and it'll be every once in a while she'll make a joke so funny that it makes me mad. Because I'm like, I'm the one sitting here trying to make it in some kind of showbiz, and you're way more talented than I am. So like, there's no reason it should be me. I keep thinking that Walk Hard, Dewey Cox storyline, the wrong kid died. Should have been me. My dream should have been killed. No.
Oh man, like it's crazy because like she said a joke one time, and I blatantly stole it. I stole it. I'm like, this is too good to not be told to everyone on the internet. So I put it on the internet, and I stole it. I threw it on Twitter and Facebook, and she looked at me. She's like, "You son of a bitch!" She's like, "That's my joke." And I'm like, "You're not the comedian around here."
She's gonna tweet at Patton Oswalt and be like, "Listen, there's a story you're going to report on. This is really."
Oh man, like, it's funny. She's great like that, and she really helps me think about a lot of the jokes and stuff, and how I should carry, what I should say. And she's an English major, so she's like a huge grammar Nazi.
Oh, okay.
So I'm like, I gotta be on top of my grammar game here, or else she's gonna get up on stage and she's like, "You mean this word?"
The audience doesn't know. They think I mean that word.
Oh man, it's a ride. It's a ride.
So how often are you still open micing? I don't really know the trajectory of how all that works.
Open micing's really weird, especially. I mean, I don't know where it is everywhere else. In New York, it's kind of weird. Long Island specifically, one company kind of owns like the major comedy clubs. There's Governor's, McGuire's, and then there's Brokerage, which is where those are like the three major comedy clubs in Long Island. If you really want to get open mics, you gotta go out to the city, which I had no problem with it. I love the city. I love New York City. I'm actually gonna be heading there later today. But when you're in the city, it's kind of like a different world. You have Long Island comics, and this is a big thing for New Yorkers. You have Long Island comics and you have city comics, and they both handle themselves in different ways. Long Island comics are very typical setup, punchline with everything they do, and there's not as much. I'm trying to think self-personality in a lot of the jokes. They're just kind of jokes, like we talked about. Although, one comic that's coming out, check him out. His name is Chris Monty, and he came out of Long Island, and he's doing some really cool work. And I really like him. He's fantastic. He's great. He actually played at my because when I did the stand-up show, he actually played there. He did about a 5-minute set. I'm sorry, I'm going to jump back. The city is where you really want to go.
I was going to ask, do you find that the city comics are usually transplants from other places?
What was really cool is that one day I walked around these other comics, and one guy was like, yeah, I'm from Maine. And I'm like, oh, cool, what are you doing here? He's like, oh, my wife actually let me just chill here. I'm like, wait, what? And he's like, yeah, I just got a backpack full of notebooks, and I just walk around and tell jokes at open mics. I'm like, what? That's crazy. How does
Yeah.
your wife let you do this? And it's like, talking to, it was really cool because we were just hanging out the whole day,
Yeah.
and just sharing philosophies and stuff on stand-up comedy. And that's like kind of where I said to myself, I'm like, you know what? You can't just do comedy, because otherwise you will be doing open mics forever. So my philosophy on this is to you do open mics to kind of get your material together. And the worst part about the open mics is that no one else is there besides comics. So you're telling jokes to comics. And if there's one thing, I feel like there's some comics out there who do not like to laugh. If you know what I'm saying.
Dude, so you're, I think, the fourth comic I've known on this podcast, and one thing, you're the first one who gives courtesy laughs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it's just,
none of them. I think it's because the laughter as a currency is so important to comics that a lot of comics will, or maybe they just got burned too many times, and it's like, well, I'm not going to laugh for your dumb joke if people don't laugh for my dumb joke.
I mean, that's the thing though. So like, it's honestly, to me, it's I'm not even courtesy laughing. It's not a courtesy. I really find things funny. Like I'd love to laugh, and that's the first part of it being a comic. You gotta laugh, man. I remember I did this one show, and there was a guy in the back, and I forgot his name, but like when he laughed, like you knew it. Like you'd be like, ha ha ha, you hear crowd laughing, and he's like, ha 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 ha, and I'm like, and that makes you feel good. Laughter is really good, and when you see other comics laughing at jokes, like, especially since there's other comics who just do not like to laugh. They don't. So when you make other comics laugh, like that's a feat for me. And that's and like I said, like you go to these open mics, man, and no one's laughing at you. You're not performing in front of a real audience. You're just standing there in front of a mic. So like a lot of the stuff for me, I'm like, I don't even want to waste my time half the time going to an open mic just to make other comics not say anything.
So what's the other avenue? Try to get credits through writing, or like what else do you do?
Well, writing's a really big part. What I would suggest doing is taking, and it sounds really, really crazy, but there's good comedy program classes that you can take under Upright Citizens Brigade. Save some money, go to there. Those guys are great. They'll get you places. It's classes that I've been trying to look to do. It's like $400 a class, though. It's almost like college. Like if you did not go to college, go to the city. There's a couple of them, Upright Citizens Brigade theaters. Go take their courses. Go to comedy classes. On Long Island, like I said, I went to a comedy course, and it was really good experience because I sat there with some more experienced guys who've been around for a while. I mean, they're not like crazy famous, but they're at the point where they know what they're doing. Yeah. And so I'm listening to these guys, and I'm telling my jokes, and they're like, no, you switch this to this, and it's much funnier. So I'm like, okay, and I'm like, okay, whatever, you don't know what you're talking about. But when I performed that night, those exact jokes, I'm like, I killed. Like, they know something. Yeah. And, that's where you really want to go. Like, open mics are great and everything, but it really depends on what kind of joke you're telling. And the insight that I got, the teachers were, his name was Rich Walker, and it was Peter Bales. I mean, you can check them out if you guys want to. But they were spot on. And when I saw them take the stage, it was working. Whatever they were doing, their magic was working. And that's like, I suggest that every single comic to take a course like that, just because it really does help. It helps your writing. I'm telling you, my writing has changed so much since that course I took. And it was like an 8-week course, and just having other people and getting together with other people just to write jokes was definitely a really good experience.
Would you think about it this way? Would you let's say you had access to a famous comic you respected, or a famous, whatever, semi-famous comic you respected? Would you pay them $400 for them to sit with you every week for 8 weeks and help you with jokes?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's basically what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. And the cool thing was that the comedy course, it was given to me as a gift. My dad got it for me. And he's like, you should go through this. He's like, you should do this. And it's really weird because I normally don't have family supporting me in anything. But they're like, hey, you're funny, and we want to see you go places. Oh, that's so, nice. Yeah, really cool, really nice of them.
My dad's a famous jazz musician, and
really?
he would and he would that's why doing music seems so like, he'd be like, it's really hard, and I'd be like, it's just everyday life. What you do is just everyday life. Then of course you get into the real world and you understand how insanely difficult that is. but like and how many decades you have to work just to get to a stable place. But like I feel like if I ever like moved to, and he had told me a couple times, it's like, yeah, if you move to like LA or New York or like a specific city for music, it's like that. I feel like that would garner a lot more support because it shows that you're willing to like uproot your life to like
Oh
make that
yeah.
kind of commitment. Which is what I always tell bands who, if you're in a band and your genre is blowing up in another city, like right now I'm in a pop punk band, and in the last couple of years in Philly, pop punk has been exploding. Had my band really wanted to like make it and like really just like put everything into it, we would have moved to Philly. Like that's what you
Oh
have
yeah.
to do. If you know the right place to be, you have to get there. Like
Well, it was like when the grunge era blew up. I mean, that was all in Seattle. Like
yeah.
everyone came from Seattle, and there was a reason for it. You
Yep.
know, and that's the same thing with comedy and even just acting in general. Like New York is a really good place for all of that, but you have to be dedicated. You have to really kind of put yourself on the outside your comfort zone. You know, like if you're not comfortable with standing on stage, then you really shouldn't be a comic.
Yeah.
Like, and that's just the bare minimum. That's just like the bare
Yeah.
stuff. Um, like, like if you can't take blood and guts, then why are you gonna be a doctor?
Yeah. That's
Like,
exactly why I wasn't a doctor. The only
yeah,
reason.
no, I didn't want to be shot at. That's why I'm not a cop. So,
Awesome. Okay, so what I want to know is, so when did you really get into stand-up comedy?
oh
Not
man,
necessarily doing it, just watching it and enjoying it.
I remember I was probably 10 years old, and my grandmother was watching me, and I put on Comedy Central, and Saturday Night Live was on. And I remember this to this day. It was like Superman's funeral, and that was like the skit. I believe it was Superman and Batman. It was like their skit, and I'm watching it and I'm laughing and like when you hear the laughter, like I don't even know what everyone's laughing at. I'm just like, oh, this is funny because everyone's laughing, and I'm young and I don't know. And my grandmother came on, she turned the channel, she's like, you're not old enough to watch this. So the rebellion side kicked in me, and I'm like, I need to watch this. So I watched a ton of Saturday Night Live. I'm talking like not like the older phase where it was like Bill Murray and stuff, but I watched. It was mostly like the Chris Farley,
Yeah, yeah.
Mike Myers area, and era, and those, and like that's when I was like I want to do that. Like I want to do that. I want to make people laugh, and I didn't really, I went through my whole life thinking like, okay, I'm not really like that. I gotta get my life order, and now I'm like, you know what? I'm like, screw it. I have no idea what I'm doing with my life. I might as well just make something happen. Might as well do something. So it's a lot of now I'm doing a lot of writing and stuff, and that's really where it comes down to right now.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. And it sounds like you've kind of figured out some of the limitations of soul stand-up, and you're looking into doing a lot more writing as a better avenue, or another avenue, I should say, not a better one. Do you do anything with YouTube? I notice a lot of comics that I've been talking to, at least, to supplement doing open mics. They've been doing a lot of YouTube videos, as that's a way that you can just do something in your own house and still get some kind of content out there.
Oh yeah, like the thing I like my fiance watches a lot of. She's really big into YouTube. She's really big into a lot of YouTubers. Like, and I'm kind of into some of them too. John Green is like, everyone loves John Green and Hank Green. Those guys are great. But she watches a lot of the YouTube stuff, and I'm like, okay, and I try to watch comics on there. But my problem is like when I watch a comic on YouTube, it's like I don't know exactly how to react to the jokes because I don't know, maybe I'm just old school enough where I'm just like I'd rather just perform in a room with actual people than like to my wall because I'm waiting for a response. And
Oh yeah.
like I'm gonna tell a joke and then like the wall's just gonna be like not say anything and just be silent. I'm like, okay, next joke. Like silence just makes everything awkward for me. So
Oh, dude, every time, like sometimes I'll do this podcast where I just talk to myself, and I won't try to make jokes, but if like a joke just comes out and there's silence afterwards, it's the most awkward transition back into it. Like I have no idea what to do. I'm like, was that funny? Was that not funny? And then I get thrown off for the next 30 seconds. So yeah, I have a very hard time, like, and I don't want to be insulting, but not to you, obviously, but like, I don't know how, I feel like you have to be so not self-centered, but like so egotistical if you're telling jokes into your webcam, and you're just like joke and then transition to the next joke and the next joke comfortably, because if you don't feel that discomfort from not knowing, then that means you fully believe in yourself, and I don't trust anyone who fully believes in themselves.
That's funny because like I always tell a joke. I'm like, the reason why I'm a comic is because I'm so self-centered, and I want other people to force. I want to force other people to listen to me. and
and you know what? I think that's why we all get into our perspective look at me fields. And that could go for any kind of art, even any kind of athletics, any kind of eyes on me. But at the same time, if you're gonna do something, even if it's as subjective as comedy or music or art, you still have to be objective in that, oh, people aren't liking what I'm doing. Other people are liking other things more, so you actually have to question yourself. It's almost like you start out really egotistical, and then you get knocked down 1,000 pegs, and then you become more like modest than the normal person.
You know what it is too? Like that's like I feel like that's a part of growing as a comic, because you can tell a joke and you'll be like, oh man, like I'm one of the best comics out there. People love me, and then you're gonna have one guy be like, you suck, and that's what I hate about YouTube, is like you know there is a lot of just vile on YouTube, and there's a lot of like just. I'm not gonna say bad people, but there's bad people on YouTube.
I'm not gonna say bad people, but
I don't want to say it, but I'm gonna say it. There's just a lot of people who just like you can put pictures of cats, you can put videos of the most adorable things, and some guys can be like, that is the most ugliest thing I've ever fucking seen. And like I don't want to like subject myself to some asshole who's gonna be like, that was the worst fucking joke I've ever heard. Like this joke gave me cancer.
Well,
like we don't need that. We don't need that stuff. And
how telling of how I don't know, like extreme YouTube is, or the internet in general, when that post gave me cancer can be considered a hacky joke. Boring. Heard it.
Oh yeah, like I play. There's a game I play. I play Destiny a lot. Like I've been sucked into that game, and you know. I'm part of that subreddit, and I throw my ideas out there. And there's always the first person that comments. I'm like, oh, I got a comment. Let me see what it is. If I was something cool, first person was like, you should kill yourself. I'm like, are you serious, man? Like, really? That's what you I throw. I'm like, yo, it would be awesome if we had this. And someone's like, you should kill yourself. I'm like, that's the first thing you say to someone? Like that's
completely reasonable. No, because you know it was you.
like.
Oh my god! I'm trying to turn it into, oh, he's totally being reasonable, and whatever you did was a real reason. But that's too absurd. I can't even.
It's not. It's too crazy, and like that's one of the reasons why I try to dodge YouTube with certain things.
Play devil's advocate, and obviously through anonymity, people on YouTube will be a lot more rude than someone at an open mic. But earlier you had mentioned if you can't handle that kind of response on stage, then you shouldn't be a comic. Well, then again, you're saying that's why you stay off the YouTube. But like, but I mean, I feel like as a musician, I would, if another musician told me I don't want to put something on YouTube because of that reason, I would say, I was like, well, that's part of it. Like, you're gonna get more from the people who like it than you are from the people who hate it. And the people who hate it, they're sitting there going like, they're not going, this guy needs to be brought down a peg. They're going, I feel like this person, or even I hope this person is just going to be hurt by this comment that I made.
Yeah. That's another thing I really hate about the internet. And like that's why like I'm a part of a lot of, like I said, a lot of subreddits, and one of the subreddits I'm part of is the stand-up comedy one, where I ran into you, and like that. There's just a lot of people who are like, that joke sucks. That this is terrible. I'm like, no, we can make it better. We can always make it better, and that's how I am. I'm a genuinely positive person. So like I try to make everything better that I possibly can. I mean, if a guy tells a terrible joke, I'm gonna tell him like, straight up, like, listen, I don't think it works like this, but this is how we can make it work. There's always a way to make it work. And then like I know you were talking about just like music before, like artists throwing their songs on YouTube. I think there's a difference between like putting a joke on YouTube and then putting a song on YouTube, because I like to listen to music on YouTube. That's one of the things on YouTube I really like to do. So like when I hear a song, I'm like, okay, that was cool. I like that. You know, I get kind of more of a response from music than I do comedy on YouTube. So like I give a lot of credit to anyone who's like, you know, so positive of themselves that they can throw stuff on YouTube but still kind of be nervous about it. You know, like I don't know if anyone's gonna like this.
Yeah, that's human. If you're not nervous, then you're doing something wrong, or you're just like a genius. Dude, every once in a while, because I'll make posts, whether it's Reddit, Facebook, YouTube, for whatever, whether it's a joke, an observation, or something music related, and like every once in a while, like the most beautiful feeling is when you think of it or you make it and you're like, this is gonna do well, and then you post it and it actually does well, and you're like, oh, the stars line up. Because every other time it's, I think I'm a genius and nobody else gives a shit, or I think I'm a hack and everybody else loves it. And so it's like,
yeah, that's like, but that's the weird thing too is that, like, when it comes to other people, I think there's a lot of jealousy and animosity with a lot of people, because one of the things that I notice about just the way that humans work is that they hate to see other people succeed. That's what a lot of people don't like. They don't like to see other people succeed, and I think that's like crazy, just very spiteful in the first place. Like, I would love to see my friends and everyone else succeed, and they are. I'm kind of like one of my last friends who are just kind of like, I'm working just a regular BS job, but I'm going down a whole different kind of alleyway too at the same time. Like, my friends, they found their spot in life, and I'm still trying to make mine.
yeah.
And, it's all about what you want to do. And when you come in contact with someone who's just like a gigantic asshole on the internet, like like you gotta realize that person's a gigantic asshole on the internet with a fake name.
I couldn't tell if you meant literally at first, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah, like, and when it comes to the animosity, it's like there's got to be something where that person's like, oh, that's a better idea than what I had. That's not right. I'm the best person out there.
Or it's that person didn't have an idea in the first place.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I felt like, because when I was younger and still, like, I guess it just depends on your perspective, because when I get jealous, I have to remind myself, like, that it's okay that someone else is doing what you're doing more successfully. But it's like, I still feel it, but then I'll have to, like, fight that feeling. But I feel like with a lot of other people, you'll have someone ages 18 to 22 or to 24, where you'll find just the average person is they're more happy for somebody else's success. But then all of a sudden they get to our age or older, and they realize that they haven't done anything. As far as, if we're talking criticism of the art and getting jealous of people being successful doing art, it's almost like, I know a lot of people, and I'm being very vague, so I'll be more specific. A lot of people that I know that I've met through various avenues of music or just in general are people who say things like, oh, well, I'm just really, really funny. I could be a famous stand-up, or I could be a successful musician. I'm great at guitar. But they never do an open mic through their 20s. They never make an album. They never, like, play a show. They just have a skill that they perceive and believe that, oh, I could totally do this. And it's almost like they never think that, they expect it to happen for them, but without them actually making any effort. They go to, like, I know people who go to The Voice and American Idol auditions every year, and one day they're going to wake up and just hate everyone else who's successful because they never took those avenues to actually make their dream happen.
Yeah.
So I think that's what we end up seeing, is people who are just in a position where they don't see themselves ever getting that. Like, I don't know. It's shitty.
It is shitty. Like, but you're absolutely right, man. There's a lot of people out there who, like, and it's weird because and that's why I say it's really important to be more than just a stand-up comic. Because you don't want to do open mics for your whole life, and bringer shows where you have to bring, like, 10 people, and they have to get like 2 drinks and pay for a ticket.
And for musicians listening, he's basically talking about pay to play, which we all hate.
I hate them, but they do so much work. They really do. At least I can say from my experience of being both a musician and being a comic. When I was playing music, I had to do a lot of ticket sales and stuff like that, but my first show with this one band I recently joined at the time, we sold out a major venue by my house, and, like, we sold more tickets than we were supposed to. So and, like, it was a really cool feeling because we played our set, and then after our set, everyone went home. So it sucks for the other bands and stuff, but, like, when we did that, it showed everyone else, like the people who set the show up, like, wait a minute, these guys can bring a crowd. Yeah. And that's what it comes down to with anything that you do. If you bring a crowd, if you can make people laugh, if you can do all that stuff, that's going to kind of set you ahead a little bit. And that's like there's I feel like there's me reality and the real reality. And the me reality is like, oh, if I just do shows and do open mics, people are just going to notice, and all of a sudden I'm going to take off. when that's not the reality. That's not the real reality. The real reality is that if you bring someone to a show, if you make someone else money, if you put money into someone else's pocket, they'll put money into your pocket. And that's kind of like where our society is. And that's what it's like in New York, where if I do a lot of shows at this club called the Broadway Comedy Club, and I mean, for a while I was doing their shows. Then I don't know, something happened. But I was doing shows with them, and they were like, we'll hook you up with an internship at this other place. We'll get you
Nice.
places, and I'm like, that's really cool. And I'm thinking to myself, the only like one of the real reasons why he's given me these opportunities is because I bring people, I present people, I do my job,
Yep.
and that's what it comes down to. You have to do the work. If you don't do the work, you're not getting anywhere. Like if you have a talent, man, exploit that talent. That's
Yeah.
everyone has that. Everyone has that talent, and everyone has something cool they can do. But if you're fine with like doing like not doing that, and if you are happy being like a teacher or like doing work, like do what makes you happy. But either way, whatever you do in life, it's going to require work, and
Mhm.
that's why I'm doing writing too.
Thanks.
I'm trying to get my own website stuff running. Uh,
Well,
but
on that very positive note, so we're about to wrap up, but I want
oh,
you, because you just mentioned your writing, give us any plugs right now for any ways that we can check you out, and also hit me up on the message chain we have, and give me any links you want me to put in to
cool.
the liner notes.
Let's see. I would say actually right now just kind of go for my Twitter because everything else is in the works right now. So Twitter, I'm at Agitated Stove. So get me there. I'm kind of funny at times, and that's all I really got for you right now. In the future, I'll have more stuff going up. It's just I'm working a little plan in my head. So
All right, cool, man. Well, we will catch you on Twitter, and I'll follow you as well, so we can keep in touch. And I'll let you know. Just send me the links on Reddit, and I'll let you know when this goes live.
all right, awesome. Thanks a lot, man.
All right, dude. Well, it was great talking to you, man.
Nice
Thanks so
talking to you too.
much.
Take
All
it
right,
easy.
see ya.